Hello, today I'm going over overview of photosynthesis lecture. So we're just introducing photosynthesis, probably from some previous science course you've had, you were introduced to it, but we're just going over the basics here. We'll get more detailed into the process of photosynthesis later on. So let's get started. Photosynthesis is the process plants use to convert sunlight into chemical energy. And you see the basic idea here, sunlight coming in, and then eventually carbohydrates are going to be produced. So during this process, plants take in carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil. So carbon dioxide comes in from the air. This is just the gas carbon dioxide. And sometimes we see water fall onto the leaves of plants and stuff like that, but they don't actually uptake water that way. It's all going to come from the roots. Okay, so the water's coming in through the root system. Using energy from sunlight, they produce glucose, which is a type of sugar used for food. Oxygen is released in the atmosphere as a byproduct of this reaction. So we'll find out later on, as it gets more complex, the energy from the sun is going to be put into these carbohydrates, which is the basis of our food chain. But you need carbon dioxide and water as well. And then oxygen will be released as a byproduct. Photosynthesis mainly takes place in the leaves of plants inside structures called chloroplasts. So within each of these leaves is an organelle called a chloroplast. That's this bean-looking thing. The overall chemical equation for photosynthesis can be shown as 6 carbon dioxide molecules plus 6 water molecules producing glucose and oxygen, which we see in this formula. This process is essential because it provides energy for nearly all living things on Earth. So almost everything is getting their energy from the sun through photosynthesis. Almost every living organism. There are exceptions, of course. And you see these chloroplasts here, like this bean, like I said, this kind of big organelle. That's where all of the photosynthesis is going to take place. Several parts to this process, but it's all inside this chloroplast. Animals depend on plants directly or indirectly for food and oxygen. All right, so let's keep going. Chlorophyll is the green pigment found inside chloroplasts that captures light energy from the sun. All right, so there's a pigment within the chloroplasts here that we see as green. It gives the leaves its green color. The chlorophyll gives it the green color. And that's going to actually capture the light's energy. It absorbs mostly blue and red wavelengths of light while reflecting green light, which is why plants appear green. Absorbed, reflected, thus it is green. Chlorophyll is important because it begins the process of converting solar energy into chemical energy. Without chlorophyll, plants would not be able to carry out photosynthesis effectively. So the chlorophyll molecule is going to be an essential first step in photosynthesis. Okay, so we have our chloroplasts here. Now we're going to take a deeper look into the chloroplast to see what's inside of the chloroplast. A thylakoid is a flattened membrane sac located inside the chloroplast. That's what you see here. You see the thylakoid stacks of these flattened, they're kind of like squished down sacs. Thylakoids are often stacked together in groups called grana. The membranes of the thylakoids contain chlorophyll and other molecules needed for photosynthesis. So by membrane, we mean the skin of these things right here is where we're going to find the chlorophyll. These structures provide a large surface area where the light-dependent reactions can occur. All right, so we've talked about chloroplasts, the thylakoids inside the chloroplasts. Now we're going to go to the membrane of one of these, if I remember correctly. And we're going to take a look here at more of the chemical component of photosynthesis. Again, we're going to go into more detail on this later. There's a lot going on, but you can follow it step by step. We're just introducing some ideas here that are shown in this picture. All right, so light-dependent reactions take place in the thylakoid membrane and require sunlight to occur. So we've got thylakoid lumen on this side, chloroplastoma on the outside. So this is kind of like inside and this is kind of like outside. But you see the light coming in here. During these reactions, chlorophyll absorbs light energy and excites electrons, which is happening right there. And you can see the electrons, that E negative. So light comes in. At the chlorophyll, it's going to excite electrons. Water molecules are split apart. So here's my water molecule, and it's split apart into oxygen, electrons, and hydrogen ions. So oxygen, electrons, and hydrogen ions, H+. The energy captured during this stage is stored in molecules called ATP, this is the final part up here, and NADPH, which is right here. So this is the beginning, this is the end, okay? At least of this part, the light-dependent part that takes place in the presence of sunlight. Even summarizing it, there's a lot going on. All right, now the next part is the light-independent reaction. So we see light coming in here, and here's our thylakoid membrane. So all of this was taking place in there, okay? The light-independent reactions, also known as the Calvin cycle, occur in the stroma of the chloroplast. So now, instead of talking about inside of the thylakoids, now we're inside the chloroplast, and think about it as like the liquid space inside the chloroplast, all in here. Let's see here. These reactions do not require direct sunlight, but they use the ATP and the NADPH produced during the light-dependent reactions. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is combined. So here's our carbon dioxide from the atmosphere coming in, is combined with other molecules to build glucose. This is a complex cycle, but basically we've got all these things coming in, these three, goes through this cycle, you get some waste products here, and then you're ultimately going to build sugar. That's the purpose of photosynthesis. Takes the light energy, puts it into the bonds of the sugar. The glucose made during this process can later be used by the plant for energy, growth, and storage. Okay, that was a lot. Feel free to review that again, and we'll go deeper into photosynthesis next time. Thank you very much.